You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast with your dating coach, Trip, from tripadvice.com. Do you struggle with getting girls to like you? You'll learn step by step how to talk to girls to create deep connections, whether it be for one night of wild fun, a 1-week fling.
Are you currently involved in a sexual relationship?
Or for a lifelong partner.
Full of long-lasting pleasure.
Here's your host, Trip.
Hello and welcome to the How to Talk to Girls podcast. This is your host, Trip, from tripadvice.com. And today's episode, we are going to be talking about what to do when you call a girl on the phone. What do you say? And also I'm going to give you some great lessons on rejection. Okay, so something to talk about here. Now, today's episode is sponsored by Spartagen XT, your all-natural resource for boosting your sex drive, boosting your libido. So if you have any issues with low testosterone, maintaining erections, or being able to please a girl in the bedroom, then check this out at SpartanLibido.com. Again, filled with herbs and vitamins, and I love promoting all natural stuff. I don't want to send you away and go get stuff from the pharmacies because I like to try things out that can be all natural. Let's try this out. SpartanLibido.com. It's worked for me. Will it work for you? Check it out. So today's episode, like I said, we'll be talking a little bit about what to do when you get a girl on the phone and rejection. Now, where did I come up with this from? How did I come up with this out of the top of my head? I didn't. We got a call. We got a call from a guy named Jay all the way in Orlando. And he left a voicemail, and we're going to answer his question because that's what I do here. I answer your questions. Do you have a question? Call in. 323-432-0025. I want to hear from you. That's right. I want to hear from you and see what's going on with your dating life. So call in, leave a voicemail, and we'll get to you. So let's go to this voicemail of this week and hear what the issue is, and again, solve it. Here it is.
Hey, Trip. My name is Jay. I'm 47 years old, and I live in Orlando. I've been listening to your podcast for some time now, and you give great advice. So I was wondering if you could shed some knowledge this way. I met this girl in a bar, and we had good rapport together, and she was about to leave, and before she left, I handed her my phone so she could enter her number. She gave me her number, and I called her, and when I called her, instead of just keeping on with the rapport, I said her name in a question form, and she replied that I had a wrong number. So I was wondering if there's another way to go about it. Did I go about it the wrong way? Can you just advise me what I should have said? Thank you so much, Trip. Thank you.
Well, Jay, we got a few issues here, and we're going to talk about them right now. First of all, Jay, thank you so much for calling in. Awesome. 47-year-old caller. I like getting guys who call in who are over 30 because I know a lot of you are probably in your 20s. It just happens to be that way. But we still got a lot of guys in their 30s and 40s, 50s, and 60s who listen to the podcast, and I love hearing from you. So, again, if you have a question, you're over 18, you can also call in. I gave you the number before. I'm not going to do it again. You can rewind it. All right, let's get into it. So, Jay, first of all, this is a rejection, I know that some of you are listening right now and probably thinking the same thing. Jay, this is a rejection, okay? She gave you the wrong number. So that was really good that you were trying to keep up with rapport and say her name on the phone. I like that, by the way. And I'll give you some tips of how to make phone calls work to your benefit once you get their number. But that was really awesome that you did that. But again, this girl, not interested, right? She's not interested in you. She gave you the wrong number. So what does that tell you? That tells you that you did something wrong in the interaction. So all you got to do really is every time you end up getting a number or you get, let me rephrase this. You get a number and you get rejected like that, or you get rejected in general, then you got to go back and analyze, but don't overanalyze, but analyze in such a way where you could say, where can I have done better? And again, you might not always know, but try to guess. If there's anything in your head that maybe you could do different next time, that's how you're going to coach yourself and apply it. Okay, so think about it that way. What could you do better the next time you go and approach? Because this girl wasn't interested. So the problem here isn't what should you have said on the phone. The real issue is now come down to what can you do better in the initial interaction so you get the right phone number from this girl, okay? Because like I said, she was not interested. But either way, this brings up a great question. That's why I picked this voicemail, because it was a very good question in terms of what are you supposed to say when you call a girl? Like, what are you supposed to say when you get her on the phone? And then there's the idea of calling versus texting. What do you do? Which one is the right answer? So that's what I want to talk about today. Now, if you end up getting a phone number, there's this big debate on texting versus calling. So here's my kind of rules for it. If you end up meeting a girl out and you have a very long interaction, maybe you go on an instant date where you guys end up spending like a couple hours together, or maybe you're at the bar and you end up spending the whole night together. Maybe she ends up sleeping over. So if you're really connecting with this girl hardcore, and you'll know, if you're asking, well, Trip, how do I know if I'm doing that? You'll just know. If you have to question it, then you probably didn't, okay? But if somewhere deep inside you're like, no, that was like a really good connection. And again, that's not going to happen from a 5-minute conversation. That's going to be much longer. So if you approach a girl, you get her number, and you guys are talking for however long, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. This is a girl you're going to want to call. Those are the types of girls you want to call, okay? Now, there are some exceptions. If the girl at this point in 2000, you're listening to this, it's 2016, if she is under the age of, let's say, 22 or 24 even, then you might want to text, because those girls are just used to texting. They're not used to guys calling them. They don't even know that chivalry is calling a girl, right? That could be a chivalrous move to call a girl and start a conversation rather than just typing and starting a conversation. So if she's younger than 24, 23, 22, if she's even in college and you're listening to this, then at that point, yeah, I might want to think about actually shooting her a text. Again, play with it. Try it out. Give her a call. See what happens. Try to call her. If you really think, I don't care if she's 22. We had a great conversation. I want to get this girl on the phone. Then do it. Okay? Getting her on the phone is a really great way to continue the connection, show her that you're not scared, and trust me, this is the best reason why you want to call. Again, in the right circumstances. Like I said, if you talk to them for a while, you make that connection, you call, because they're going to be like, whoa, this guy called. And no other guy calls. Every other guy text messages. So you can stand out that way. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Trip, why don't I just call every single time then, if I can just be that guy to stand out? Well, here's the thing. Some girls, you might not have a really deep connection with the first time you meet them. It might be actually very quick conversation. You might get their number after 20 minutes. You might even get their number after an hour, but you were talking to some of her friends. It wasn't a very deep connection. You guys just kind of had some fluff conversation, but you managed to get her number. At that point, you might want to use the text message to open up the conversation, okay? And we'll talk about texting another time, because today's dedicated to the calls. But now you kind of know the difference between when you should text and when you should call. And that's going to be the difference of how much you connected with this person. That's how I like to measure whether or not you call versus you text, with the exception of her maybe being a little bit young and used to texting. Because, who gets on the phone these days? Isn't that weird? I can't believe I have to say that, by the way. Who gets on the phone these days? But for some reason, we're just sitting there, we're texting, we're typing. This is our world now. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything's about posting and typing and texting, and people don't talk anymore. It's kind of sad, but that's the reality. And you got to go with what works, right? So for this, let's talk about when you actually do get on the phone with a girl. Ooh, what a fun thing. So here's another little tip, by the way. If you're doing online dating, if you're doing Tinder, if you're doing Match.com, whatever you're doing, I highly suggest, if you guys end up connecting on these apps, that you have a conversation with her before the date, okay? Now, again, that's going to be for another time. That's another topic, because that's going to be kind of like your first conversation as like your approach, because you met her offline. But if you're calling after meeting her and approaching, this is like your second conversation. So the conversations are a little bit different. And today I'm just going to really go over a little, screw it. Let's go over both. Let's just go over it all. We got time. Okay. So I'll tell you exactly what you want to say and what you want to do in both situations. Situation 1, you get her number from an actual approach, a cold approach, an introduction, whatever. You meet her in real life. Okay. Situation 2 is if you get her number off the app. And again, I want to go back. I know I'm crazy and I go on a lot of tangents here. You just got to deal with it for now. Okay. But again, if you get the number off the app, some guys will just get the number and text and set up a date and never talk to her on the phone. But it's a really good idea to get her on the phone and talk to her because you can build a really, really big connection over the phone, get her used to you. And then when you guys meet up for the first date, it's not so awkward, it's not so weird. And you guys can have such a stronger first date because there's already attraction there. Okay? There's already attraction there. So think about that. That's a really good tip. I have a whole system, by the way, for how you're going to do that. And that will be for another call. There's a whole kind of system that I have and techniques in terms of getting her number from the app, texting her, and then getting her on a phone conversation. So for now, let's talk about what you're going to do when you actually get her on the phone. So let's say you met her out and you guys hop on a phone call. You end up calling her a couple days later. You got to have a goal in mind, okay? So the goal of the first conversation is to set up a date and see when she's free. So what you want to do before you get on the phone is have a couple of ideas of when you're free and what you'd want to do. So don't just call with no plan, okay? Because eventually you're going to be saying to her, hey, so the reason why I called was because I want to see when you're free. I want to see you again, okay? And you can say it just like that. I wanted to see when you're free. I want to see you again. Why does that work? That's very direct. That's very flirty. Okay? And that's very confident. Not a lot of guys are saying it like that. And I'm teaching you how to be the man that women really want. And that's a very manly, masculine thing to do. Kind of taking control. Girls love it. Girls get turned on so much when the guy has a full plan of action. It's very sexy. Okay? So when you call her, start off by saying her name, just like Jay had before, right? Jay had a really great idea of saying her name and building that rapport, but unfortunately it just wasn't her. So let's just say her name is Ashley. Okay? So if her name is Ashley, well, she's going to pick up the phone. She's going to know it's you because you guys exchange numbers. She's going to be like, hey, what's up? I'm like, Ashley, what's up? How are you? Right? So say her name. Sound excited, sound energized. That's going to be the real key. I want you to sound really, really pumped up when you talk to this girl. Hey, Ashley, how are you? What's going on? Nothing. She's going to say nothing. Just kind of, I'm at work or I'm hanging out. Nothing. How are you? Like, I'm great. So tell me, what was the most exciting part of your day today? Okay, so that's a good kind of opener, right? Or you can say, what have you been up to this week? Right? Or you can be really creative and just think of a random topic of conversation that you can just start up. So you can be like, hey, Ashley, what's up? How are you? She's like, I'm good. And you'll be like, what's crazy? I'm doing so-and-so right now and da-da-da-da-da. Something that's kind of just like different, like she wouldn't expect to hear. So you can say like, I'm on this website right now and can you believe that people are selling this crazy whatever, something that you're doing right now. It doesn't have to be the most interesting thing in the world, but it can be something that's just random that's going to get her not thinking about what she's doing in the moment and not thinking about why you called or thinking about getting nervous, but really kind of doing this. I didn't really make up this term, but technically it's like a pattern interrupt, which is something that is, I don't know where that's from. If that's neuro-linguistic programming, it's just like an interruption. It's like an interruption to get someone's attention, right? It's like, for example, a pattern interrupt in your life would be if you're walking down the street and all of a sudden you heard, a car crash. You'd be like, whoa, like everything would stop and you'd go to the car crash. So you want to kind of create that moment on the phone with this girl. You kind of just say something out of the blue that's going to be like, whoa, this is random. This is interesting. This is different. So I'm trying to think of an example here so you can get an idea. So I don't know. I'm literally thinking of anything off the top of my head. So I'm thinking like, yeah, oh my God, I'm doing my taxes right now. By the way, of course, taxes might be a very boring conversation, but if you can say it in a funny way, like, oh, I'm doing my taxes right now. And geez, I better get a good return. I'm serious. I got some things I want to buy. Something like that. Anything that's going to be different than the casual, like, so what's going on? And I know I said that earlier because you can say that with a lot of energy, but it's also good to kind of have something as a backup too. If she's just like, oh, nothing, right? It's like, well, then that gives you nothing. So you have to kind of do this sort of random topic of conversation. So get talking about whatever. And this is going to be really, going to determine how well your people skills and your phone skills and your conversation skills are. So if you're like, Trip, I don't know how I'm going to do something like that, well, then this is a good way to start getting better at this. Get these girls on the phone and start working on your phone game so you can get girls interested in you on the phone. And it's so much easier. You can kind of pace around. You can chill in your bed and be relaxed. You can be naked for all you care, right? Doesn't really matter because you're on the phone. So it is a little bit easier, but work on that conversation in terms of having it on the phone. And I want you to work on the working off of tangents. So really you want to have a nice random fun conversation with her that's going to brighten her day, that's going to be different than the rest of them that she's had with other people. So you want to have this conversation that's going to get her out of her kind of main element. And then once you guys have been talking for about 5-10 minutes, I want you to pull the trigger and just say to her, so listen, the reason why I called is because I want to see you again. What are you doing this week? When are you free? Okay. When is your next time that you can hang out? So I want you to say something like that, kind of deliver it like that, be fun, be flirty, be confident, be straightforward, and have a couple of ideas. So whatever that is, if it's getting a drink somewhere really cool, a cool bar or lounge that you know of, if you're wanting to check out some event that you want to invite her along to, right? Have that in mind. But have a couple of different options, get her schedule. Ask her, what's your schedule like this week? I want to hang out. What do you want to do? That's that's the idea. By the way, I'm not saying that you say that to the girl. I'm saying that to you, the listener. What do you want to do? Invite her into your world. What do you want to do? What are you interested in doing? Invite her into your life. It's not about, well, hey, I called because I wanted to hang out. Would you want to hang out? Okay, what would you want to do? No, you have a plan. You're a man. You got something to say to her. Okay, invite her along. So that's really it. I mean, that's the key. Now let's move on to what do you do if you get her number and you are on doing it from an app, right? If you're doing it from like Tinder or Bumble or whatever, OkCupid or something like that, and you get her number and you end up getting her on the phone because you haven't set up a date yet, right? So now this is kind of the same idea, but this is your first conversation. So you can play a little bit with that. So you call her and it's like, this kind of interesting moment because you guys are hearing each other's voice for the first time. So you're like, hey, what's up? Wow. Well, your voice is more beautiful than I thought it was going to be, right? That's a nice little flirty line. It's kind of cheesy, but it's cheesy in a way that it's, still kind of works because it's just sweet, right? So you can say something like that. And then that you can be way more casual. But also, I want you to have a plan. So really, I guess at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is a very similar conversation to the one that you would have in terms of the phone call from the girl that you met out and about, with the idea that the goal in mind should be to get her out. So think of a couple of ideas that you can get her on a date. But this conversation is going to be hopefully a little bit longer. You want this conversation to be a little bit longer because it's not just about getting her on the date. It's about building that connection and building rapport. And that's something that you really want to work on, okay? When you are, talking to them for the first time. It's almost like this is like your first approach because you've only been texting a little bit. So I want you to call back maybe some things that you guys texted about. What did you guys talk about in the conversation? Call back to that stuff, okay? Talk about those things. You can also use that kind of random pattern interrupt, telling her kind of what you're up to. And that's kind of fun. Just regular old chit-chat. Okay, that's kind of what this is about. It's regular old chit-chat. Here's the great thing. You don't have to do too many crazy, weird attraction techniques or tricks. She's already interested in you. She's already interested in you because she has swiped right on you or you guys have been texting, right? So she's already somewhat interested in having a conversation with you and maybe going on a date. And again, you are calling her and most guys don't do that. Here's another great move too. If you already set up the date, call anyways. She's not thinking that that's going to happen either. If you already set up a date via text, give her a call the night before, a couple nights before, and just say, hey, I just wanted to say what's up. I was thinking about you. Wanted to talk. I wanted to hear your voice because I didn't want to wait till Thursday. But say it in a nice, casual, kind of fun way. But yeah, that's kind of the trick with the apps. Just get them on the phone, talk about some nonsense, chit-chat, call back to what you guys were texting about. Ask her specific questions about maybe her job or something you guys, were doing, or ask her probably more interesting questions revolving around, whatever you guys were talking about. If you guys are talking about likes and dislikes or movies or foods or restaurants in the area, go to those things. Really, here's the cool thing. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. What is it that you're interested in talking about? And if you're not interested in anything to talk about, that's a problem. But you can solve that. Okay, I want you to figure it out. What's interesting to you? Okay, general interesting stuff. What are you curious about? What do you want to talk to someone about with? What are those things? Have those conversations. Just go balls out. Okay, see what happens. You'd be surprised. Again, we're talking about warm leads here, meaning that these girls are already somewhat interested in you, so it shouldn't be that hard, unless you're in an unfortunate situation like Jay, where the girl gave you the wrong number. But either way, it's going to happen to the best of us, and hopefully you're getting numbers that actually convert into conversations on the phone. Okay, so there you go. Those are my best tips I could give you in terms of being able to have awesome conversations with girls that you get on the phone, whether it be from apps, whether it be from meeting them in person. I hope that you're getting tons of numbers and you can start practicing this. This is like the next skill. This is like the next skill up from actually getting the initial attraction started. So it's definitely something that you want to work on and you want to play with, because this can really, really help get girls even more interested and invested in you before you guys even meet up. So that's some powerful stuff right there. Thank you for listening. I hope that you've learned something today. And if you have and you like this podcast, please review it. Go to iTunes, go to Stitcher. I want to hear your review, your honest review, and call in and I can answer your question. 323-432-0025. What's on your mind regarding dating, attraction, sex? I want to hear from you. Call in. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next week.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. Over 18 and want a question answered on the podcast? Email all your questions to Trip@tripadvice.com.